Hello once again, and welcome back to another video game music review. And today we'll be talking about Super Mario 2, a classic game from Nintendo. It is a game that pretty much stands alone from all of the Mario games combined, at least from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And the reason why is that while it is a very good game, very entertaining game with a very good theme song, this is a game that, if you know the history behind it, really shouldn't have existed. And the reason is that this game is not really an original Super Mario game, but more so as a game that was mirrored by another game. What I mean by it is, picture you playing a game from overseas, and that game is good, it's fun, it has have a different character, and then you go to America, and that same game was presented in a different form. You see it, you play it, and then you realize, wait a minute, this game reminded me a lot about the other game I played in Japan. In fact, it is the same game I played in Japan, just with a different character on it. That's what I mean by it's a mirror of what the original game is. Now, I don't know the name of this game. I have seen people talk about it on YouTube a lot about this game, and it pretty much explains to me why I never really felt when I was playing it on Nintendo that this was never really an original game. I felt like I was playing a game that should have been named something different, and that's because of the story of the game, the feel of the game when you play this game. And keep in mind, I'm not bashing the game. I thought it was a good game, but I always felt that this is way out of place, and nothing was proven. More so when they made Super Mario 3, and how that game reminded me more of the original Super Mario Brothers when I was playing in an arcade. Which, by the way, Super Mario 3 is probably one of the greatest Super Nintendo game of all time, if not the greatest game that came out for that system. But in terms of 2, that's the thing that really stuck out to me the more. Different enemies, a different villain, and even more so, this was the very first time where you just didn't play as Mario. Yeah, you play as Mario and Luigi, but you really, when you look at Luigi, there was really no difference between the two when you played it in the original Super Mario game. This one, you actually know who Mario was, who Luigi was, and you had Princess Toadstool and that character I can't stand, the mushroom guy, what we want to call him. And this is the first time you actually play different characters, and you can actually play it. Each level that you pass, you can actually pick another character to play, and depending on which level, you might actually want to play Princess Toadstool because she actually floats. I actually enjoyed it for that. Actually, it was something different. It was something original in terms of that style of play. The music is pretty good. I actually thought the music for this game was solid. I thought the music really did match well with what's going on with the environment. Again, this is one of those things where, unfortunately, where if you hear this music, you probably will remember it, but only after you hear it. Where after you hear it when somebody's playing Super Mario 2. This game, it doesn't vote well in terms of nostalgic factors. That's unfortunate because, again, when you think of the Super Mario theme or melody, you're going to think of the very first one before you think about anything else on the Mario series. I think the only one that holds a one-on-one blow-for-blow shot of being one of those classics is the Nintendo 64 version, and they had a very good soundtrack. I actually got a couple of them myself because the soundtrack was so good. But when you hear the tune of the original Mario Bros. Melody, you have, even if you never played the game, you know where that came from. It is constantly being put to covers. Acapella plays it a lot. There's orchestras who play it a lot. So it's something, one of those games that that when you hear that, you know what Mario, where it came from. As for Mario 2, it is so different, so unique in its own way that even though it's a good melody, it doesn't hold that much staying power. I will say for the game, the only gripe I think I probably have for the game, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why they actually got away with making the game the way it did, or in this case, mirroring it from another game the way it is, because at the end, if you played it for the end, it shows that that whole entire time, it was a dream. Mario dreamt that whole thing, and it was like kind of a disappointment because I'm like, wow, we went through all this, and we realized he dreamt the whole thing. It's kind of a weird dream, if you ask me. One of the probably weirdest dreams I think anybody would have. But that pretty much explains why you didn't see some of these characters, or pretty much all these characters, follow through in the third and beyond from that point, which is kind of sad because that's something that I did want to see some of those characters, especially those weird-looking dudes. You know, they wasn't turtles, but man, it was weird. It definitely raised the question of what the hell kind of dream he really was going on. But again, when I played it, I enjoyed it, but I just never felt this was a Mario game. Now I know this was never really a Mario game to begin with, but something that somebody slapped on, and actually say, here's Super Mario Bros. 2. As for the original Super Mario Bros. 2 that came out in Japan, I don't know what was the reason for it. A lot of people said it was too hard, which makes no sense to me because even Super Mario 1 was kind of hard. My only conclusion when I saw someone did a sample, it looks pretty much similar to the first one, so I think that was the main reason why they probably didn't took it out. I know some game fanatic was going to correct me on this. If you do find, I'd love to hear the history from it, especially if you're a big fan of the Mario genre. I'd love to hear your history behind it. But for me, when I saw, I believe they call it Super Mario The Lost Levels now, which is actually Super Mario 2, it looked very much like the same thing, but even more harder levels. That's why I think they probably did it. I think they wanted to change it up a little bit and said this is not happening. And this is probably explains why 3, although you know that's the element of what Super Mario was, they really did a great job of mixing it up, giving us something different. And that's the same thing goes with the Super Mario World, which is a totally different franchise altogether. So I like the game. I think the game is great. I think the game is wonderful. But I also felt the game was a little bit out of place. And I was obviously proven right after hearing the history. And they really never made a game close to what one was. That's pretty much all by itself. You can't even compare it to the first one. Can't even compare it to all the other games that went after that. That game pretty much stands alone as a one-and-done project. And to me, it's just fine. It works just good. Does it has a classic value? It all depends who you talk to. But for me, I did enjoy it. I did had fun with it. And my first memory wasn't even in Nintendo. It was actually in a cabinet that Nintendo had with multiple games that you put in the machine, and you had 2 to 3 minutes to play, which was horrible because if you had to end up giving up more quarters than what it's really worth, and God forbid if that machine shut off, because there was one thing about the arcades: if the power went off in the back, or something happens where it was power hours, all that money you put in that machine is gone, and that's something that I always hated. A lot of times it happened in stores, but for those machines like that, I never would recommend. That's probably why it didn't last too long. It came, but it actually died out after a while, and that was during the time where cabinet games was actually phasing out in most stores. In my area, we had a lot of them, and Super Mario 2 I considered to be the last Super Mario game ever put in an arcade, just on the fact that it was a cabinet game. So that's my experience watching it. But overall, it was worth playing. It was worth watching. It was worth watching somebody play. And again, playing not just Mario, not just Luigi, but Princess Toadstool and that Mushroom Dude. It really was worth having fun over. So what's your feeling about this? Did you like the game? You didn't like the game? Did you like the music? I didn't like the music. I'd like to know what your feelings on that. Let me know in the comment section. But until then, J77 signing off.